Hello Art 2 people. This video is to help you get prepared to add value and shading to your symmetrical design artwork. We're going to be adding value through shading by learning lots of different shading techniques. Different shading techniques use different marks and create different textures and a different look to different parts of your artwork. And that can be really beneficial to add a little bit of interest and to add some contrast and some realism too. So I'm going to launch right into it. I want you to follow along with me on your own piece of paper. You just need to make boxes like I've made and try out each one of these. And then you're going to take a picture of it and post it to the Google Class. Okay, so here we go. The first one is smooth blending. And you're all familiar with smooth blending. It's just the normal type of shading that you try to do. It's where we try to do shading that doesn't really have any appearance of lines in it. And the way you do that is just by layering and by controlling your pressure. So I'm just going to start in on this, and I'm going to start coloring in this area. But I'm going to make sure that I'm not pressing super hard. I want to control where I'm putting it and how hard I'm pressing. Notice that I'm also going in multiple directions. I'm going across areas that I've previously gone across so that I can kind of blend out the appearance of lines a little bit. So when I'm doing this, I am barely pressing down on the paper. The pencil is doing most of the work for me. I don't really have to press super lot. And I'm actually like lifting off too, so that I try not to create hard lines. As I go, I want to be able to control the pressure so that I can control how dark the area gets. I know that we all understand intellectually how this is supposed to work, but then doing it is kind of a different issue. So I'm just going to continue layering. I might speed up the video a little bit as I do this. But just try to notice how I'm going to go in different directions. I'm going to try to specifically go in certain areas to even out the values. And I'm just softly going back and forth and layering it. Okay, I want you to notice what I tried to do here with this smoothly blended shading. And it's not perfect. It's probably not going to be. But I tried to make it look like it's going smoothly from dark to light. And by smoothly, I mean there's not really a line or a value making a dividing wall between one value and another value. It kind of just gradually changes from dark to light smoothly, and it's kind of hard to tell where one dark value stops and a medium value starts, or where the medium value stops and the lighter value starts. Even over here, accidentally made a mark, even over here where it's very, very light, I'm trying to make it so smooth and control the marks, just barely rubbing against the paper so that it's just a tiny bit darker than the white of the paper. It's just a smooth transition. So that's what you're going for with that one, okay? The next one is hatching. And hatching just uses parallel lines. It can be short parallel lines, long parallel lines. The way you do the parallel lines doesn't matter so much as long as they are indeed parallel. And so they're not really lines that cross each other. So I'm just going to go kind of at a diagonal, but all the lines will go at the same diagonal angle. My opinion is that hatching and the next one, cross hatching, are much easier than smooth blending and faster. Okay, so I've already got it. I got the hatching. The closer I put the lines together, the darker that area appears. The more spread out those lines are, the lighter it appears, and then even more so, even as they get more and more spread out. If I want to increase the darkness level, I just got to go back and layer in more parallel lines. So the lines don't change. I don't change directions in this case. I'm just going to keep them going in the same direction. I'm going to try to fill in gaps where it looks like there's too much of a gap in certain spots. Okay, so that's basically hatching. But again, I can vary it a little bit. I can change how hard the lines are, how soft the lines look, the length of the line, the direction of the line, as long as they're all going in the same direction, okay? The next one is cross hatching, and it's a lot like hatching, except that lines do cross in this case. So I'm going to do them with long lines in this first example. And I'm just going to start off by hatching. And as I move across, I'm spreading out the lines more and more. And then I'm going to change directions and do another set. Again, really close together over here, really far apart over here. I'm going to do another set and change directions again. And I can continue layering the crossing lines as much as I think I need to achieve the darkness level that I'm looking for. And I am trying to be even with it. So like when I'm in this particular area, I'm trying to have the whole area appear to be the same. If there's a spot here or there that appears to not have enough lines in it, I can just throw a line in there in those different spots. But you are trying to get it to go smoothly, appear to go fairly smoothly across, even though you're doing it mostly with lines. You're doing it with all with lines, but the transition should appear to go smoothly across. Okay, the next one is still cross hatching, but I'm going to use shorter lines this time. And so there's going to be a lot more groups of parallel lines that cross each other. So there's lots of overlapping involved here. The different groups are not separate from each other. They're overlapping other groups. Again, as I go over, my sets of lines hopefully start to appear more spread out, and I have less overlapping happening. Where I see gaps in my progression, I need to add another set here or there. And I can always go back and add more layers if I want something to really be dark. And you might be asking, like, well, why don't we just color it in if you want it to be really dark? And you could, I mean, if that's the look that you want to go for. But even though this is really dark right here, it has a little bit of a different look than this up here. And that's the whole point, is we're looking for a variety in the look that we're achieving. Because you might want to create a different texture or just create a little bit of a different interest to it. So that's why you might make those decisions, okay? I'm going to do cross-hatching again and show you another variety that you could choose. So it's the same kind of thing, short lines, but I'm going to use more of a pattern approach to where I put them. And so right now that's just hatching, but I need to make it cross-hatching because that's what I said I was going to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across. Okay, I could leave that right there and call that good. There's a progression there. Or I could go a step further and I could go in a different direction now. It's really up to me. Okay, the next one is scribbling. And sometimes, you know, I might use this kind of pencil. Sometimes I might use this kind of pencil. Just depends. I can get kind of a skinnier mark with a mechanical pencil, and in this case, that's what I want to do. I could have done the same thing with the cross-hatching and the hatching, and I would have gotten skinnier lines. It doesn't matter. It's just different ways of doing the same thing. Again, to add variety. Okay, so you can see my type of mark over there. Basically going to do a scribbly swirl and just fill in the space. As I move over, my swirls got bigger. Over here they're more tightly compact. And I can layer more in there too to make it even darker. I am paying attention to like spots that I'm missing a little bit too much. Little gaps and holes that maybe look too obvious. And so I'm trying to fill those in. And I'm trying to do the right amount of scribbling so that the progression shows as going smoothly across, dark to light. And keep coming back as much as I need to and layer more and more and more. Okay. Next one I'm going to use circles. And so I'm just going to kind of make a pattern of circles that are just tightly compacted together, small ones. And got to kind of get a rhythm with this so it doesn't take you forever. I think it's faster than smooth blending though. As I move across, you'll see me increase the size of the circles, and that'll create more gaps, and they'll appear to get lighter. And I'll come back here and add more circles to make it darker if needed. Okay, this next one I'm just going to invent a line. It's going to be that type right there, and I'm going to use that a lot, just repeat that same thing to do my shading. Okay, I'm going to call that one done. Another invented line. So I just repeated that same type of line over and over and over again. I just made sure that I was putting it in places that it needed to go to fill in some gaps, and it still shows a fairly good progression from dark to light. Okay, going to do another invented line to create an entirely different texture again. This time it's just going to be like these marks. So with this one, the gaps between the different groupings became wider as I wanted areas to be looking as if they're lighter, and also the scribble wasn't as tightly packed together. Over here, to make it darker, scribbles were tightly packed together, which made them individually darker, but then they're also placed in close proximity so that the gaps were smaller, and so that makes the whole area appear to be darker. Okay, I just have one more, and I'm going to do a pattern in this spot here and show you how you can potentially make an area look like it's going from dark to light. Okay, so with a lot of these, and this one included, it's really about the balance between what areas are made dark and what areas have you left to be the white of the paper. Like, what's the ratio between those two things? That gives you the sense for creating the different values that you're going for between totally black and totally white. So over here, the squares, the rectangles are bigger and colored in, and so that takes up more of the available space that is in this area, and so this area appears to be overall darker. As you move over this way, the rectangles become smaller, and so the ratio between white and dark starts to balance out more. It was heavy on the dark side over here, but now it's kind of balanced out, 50-50. 50-50 dark and 50-50 light. And so now this whole area has an overall lighter value than this one does. Now the scales are tipping the other way. It's more white than it is black, and so it's becoming even lighter overall. And then even more, only a little bit of black and most of it is left white. So the balance of those two, the ratio of dark to light, is showing us that this area is overall a lot lighter than this area over here. Okay, and that's the same with a lot of these. How much has been colored in black or dark, and how much has been left white? So if you look at all of these different ones, the concentration of lines shows that most of this area has been colored dark, and there's only little bits of white left over, but it's the opposite over here. A lot more white is left. Okay, so again, I left one blank because, there's a never-ending amount of like different varieties of marks that you can make to achieve shading and value and texture. And so the list just keeps going on and on and on. This is just a very small partial list of ways that you can shade. The first ones are kind of the typical ones that we're used to. Smooth blending, hatching, cross-hatching, even scribbling is sort of a common technique. But then you start to get into the varieties of different shapes and varieties of different types of lines, and then even using patterns, and then there's just a whole bunch more that you can do. Even with the common ones, cross-hatching, I tried to show you how there's a great variety with even just one technique. Just if I change one thing about it, then I am creating a variation of that technique that gives it a slightly different look. And that's what I'm trying to show you. The next video is going to show you how I am going to incorporate these techniques and others and different other mark making shading techniques into my symmetrical design. This is to get you started and get you kind of familiar with some of the techniques, and to get you trying them before you put them in your final. So try these out and then show me what you came up with by submitting a picture of it to the Google class. Thank you.